We need more housing in Canada. But that the government should step up and make sure that housing gets built, that's where some people disagree. Take federal lands, land that's owned by the federal government that isn't being used anymore. The Conservative Party leader wants to sell it all off to make a quick buck. That does nothing for you. The federal government owns tons of land in cities and towns across the country. You can build a lot of homes on those lands, so that's what we're going to do. We're offering up that public land for housing. And we're not just going to sell it all to developers, we're going to long-term lease it. See, by leasing the land, we get to work with communities to make sure that home builders are building the right homes, homes you can afford. We've got land, we got lots of houses to build, so that's exactly what we're going to do.
I mean, this is such a policy from fantasy land. So you're going to lease this land so the developers never own it. So, and they're really going to build something on it if they don't own the land. This is such crap. And it smacks of, as I've said so many times in the past about this stupid policy, this is feudalism, where you've got people living on land that's essentially owned by somebody else, in this case, the government, leased to a developer, and then sort of leased. This is double lease. This is like subletting land to the people who are going to have a house or an apartment on it. This is such hokum. Does anyone believe this? I just can't imagine that they're going to monitor the housing projects on this federal land.
Even though we have the most land to build on, we spend a larger share of our economy on home building than any other country in the OECD. In fact, twice as much as they do in the United States to build the smallest number of homes. Why? Because of the bureaucracy that you have to fight your way through in order to get a building permit. The biggest single cost added to building a home in Canada is not land, labor, or lumber. It is bureaucracy. 60% of a new home cost in Vancouver is permits, consultants, development charges, taxes, lawyers, all the people who do nothing productive to actually build the home. And yet they take up the lion's share of the cost of the new home. So common sense conservatives are going to require municipalities speed up, lower the cost of building permits, and free up land to build as a condition of getting federal money. I will require cities permit 15% more housing completions. If they hit that target, they'll keep their money. They beat the target, they'll get a bonus. They miss the target, they'll pay a fine. Realtors are paid for the number of houses they sell. Builders for the number they build. Let's pay our municipalities their federal infrastructure money for the number of homes they permit. Pay for results to build the homes.
Now there's the difference between the Poilievre plan and the Trudeau plan. Once again, I'm not in the pocket of Pierre Poilievre. I'm not here to promote his policies, except when they make sense, and this one does. This is quite clear. What's the difference between Trudeau's policy, which is crazy, hoping developers are going to build affordable housing on government-leased land? Poilievre saying that's not the problem. It's not that they can't find the land. It's that they have to go through so many regulatory hoops to get the housing built. Now, this cuts through the BS. And that's what all this is. Trudeau knows what the problem is. He doesn't want to make any effort to reduce the amount of regulations that are eliminating housing production or reducing housing production. He wants to keep the regulations, and he's talking about this pie in the sky plan where developers are going to say, great, I get to lease the land and let me start building. What about those regulations, though? So that's the primary.
We're going to sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, build, build. And you know something? It warms my heart to think of a beautiful family pulling up in their U-Haul to move into their wonderful new home in the former headquarters of the CBC.
I believe in freedom.
Yeah, I've noticed.
America's supposed to be the land of liberty. Freedom and opportunity. So that we try to.
I'm going to say right now, this clip is not from Tucker's show. which is copywritten and will give us get us in trouble. This is from X.
As much as possible, maximize people's individual liberty, and that we try to be a country where you succeed based on your talent and hard work.
Yes.
Those are two fundamental values. That's what's made America great, and if we lose those, our decline will be swift.
What do you, if you had to bet, I mean, does freedom reassert itself in America or not?
Well, that's why I think part of why this election is so pivotal. I think if we, with the Trump administration, I think we can improve the liberty of Americans. We can. I think we need to have sensible deregulation,
There's the key word: sensible deregulation. That's what Poilievre's talking about for Canada. This is integral to any substantive political change.
we keep the regulations that matter. Like we don't want to destroy, important habitats or
Yes.
Encourage oil spills or anything like that. But there are so many regulatory agencies that have overlapping responsibility that we are smothering progress. And we can't build a high-speed rail in America. You look at the ridiculous high-speed rail project in California, where they've spent $7 billion, and all they've got to show for it is a 1,600-foot section of concrete with no rails on it. There's a picture of it online.
So it's not that fast yet. We wouldn't say it's high speed at this point, or even rail.
It doesn't even have rail in it. Maybe by now they put some rail in it, but it's this comically small section of rail. $7 billion has been spent, most of it in like environmental consulting and I don't know where, but clearly not in building high-speed rail. So we've got, there are so many different regulatory agencies and so many laws and regulations that prevent progress that if this continues, we simply won't be able to get anything done.
It does seem like the engineers are not getting rich. It's the environmental consultants, the climate consultants, the DEI consultants. A whole consultant class seems to be getting richer by the year, where people with actual skills, the ones that bring actual progress.
Useful things, products and services that you can use.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is a trend.
Things that if you were like traveling on a desert island, you'd want those people.
Right.
But you wouldn't want environmental consultants.
They seem undercompensated.
It's like you're going to starve.
Though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like who are actual builders that get things done, and every year we're making it harder in America for actual builders to get things done.
Right, and that is very interesting because you think about how many useless jobs are out there right now. People doing things that are of absolute no account, absolutely useless work. And there's so many people doing so-called consulting that are producing paper that is meaningless and will be thrown into the fire eventually. And the work is completely inconsequential. If you do real work, I mean, people listening right now, if you drive a truck, if you serve food, if you grow food, you do real work. If you construct buildings, you're doing real work. Consultants don't do real work. I like to think I'm doing real work again. Well, I think the work I did in the military was important. And I think I've always tried to be an even-handed, fair, objective journalist. But I really do feel like I'm doing real work right now. And I know a lot of you are doing real work. But these people who are contracted by the government to give them advice that they already know what that advice will be, it is just a crock. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, folks. Don't listen to Justin Trudeau. We need this kind of attitude in Canada right now because let me tell you, Justin Trudeau will fight tooth and nail to stay as leader of the Liberal Party and as Prime Minister of Canada, and he will use every trick in the Liberal handbook to do that. So we have to be vigilant, and we have to have perseverance to fight this battle to the end. As I've been saying since this station went on the air, We need to resolve to resist. And we need to fight for our free speech and our democratic rights to say what we believe, to speak, as John Diefenbaker said. And don't forget that t-shirt that's available out there in the store. I speak as a free Canadian, free to speak, free to believe in what I choose. And Justin Trudeau is not going to interfere with that. Thanks for being a part of the Craydens' Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.